2068, 2069, 2070, 2071, 2072, 2073, 2074, 2075, 2076, Senator Kurufi, Katsina Central.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Omar Ibrahim Kurufi, representing Katsina Central. I stand to move that the vote and proceedings of Tuesday, 6 March should be adopted, should be approved. I so move.
Senator Gershom Bassi, Cross River South.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gershom Bassi, Cross River South. I rise to second the motion that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 6th March 2018 be adopted.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 6 March 2018 be hereby approved, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 6 March 2018 is hereby approved. Announcement. Let me acknowledge the presence of staff and students of Vinecare Gedu Estate, Abuja, staff and students of Joseph Jorin International School, Kubwa, Abuja, staff and students of Evangel First Global School, Kubwa, Abuja, staff and students of the Best International School, New Cairo, Nasarawa State, and staff and students of Graceland School, Kware, Abuja, who are all in a gallery to observe our proceedings. I wish you a fruitful observation of the Senate proceedings. Please sit down. Petitions? Yes, Senator Gershom Bassi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gershom Bassi, Cross River South. I have a petition against the Nigerian police force from 11 of my constituents for an unlawful dismissal. May I lay the petition?
Okay, come and lay the petition. Petition referred to ethics and privileges. Report back in 2 weeks. Yes, point of order. Senator Mustafa.
Mr. President,
Have you discussed with your colleagues? Okay. All right. Go ahead.
I'm Senator Sani Mustafa Mohammed, representing the good people of Niger South. Mr. President, I'm coming under personal explanation order 43. By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator will make a personal explanation, although there will be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you must have seen in the news, one of the major markets, the oldest market in Niger South, my district, got caught in a very wildfire last weekend. Hundreds of people lost valuables that we are still not able to weigh their worth. Mr. President, it is clearly not the best of time for the victims and my people in general. While I commend many Nigerians who have been showing their concern over the tragic incident, I rise to plead with the hallowed chamber to mandate NEMA to immediately move down to Bida to offer relief materials to the victims. Mr. President, I also rise to urge the Senate to send a delegation to the district to commiserate with the victims. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator, I think you came under Order 43 with your personal explanation, and it appears that what you are doing really is moving emotion. So I think I will advise, if you want to come with those reliefs, that you come under a proper motion, and we will take that. We definitely do note the unfortunate incident, but some of the reliefs you've asked for, you need to come under a proper motion. Yeah, Senator Gimbe.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Ahmed Ogimbe, Mr. President. I'm from Kogi Central Senatorial District. I'd like to come under Order 42 and 52 of the Senate Standing Rule, Mr. President.
Yeah, go ahead.
The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. If the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate and the leave of the Senate is given by at least 1/5 of the senators, the matter shall stand over till the next legislative day. Not more than one such motion may be made at the same sitting. I'm going to Order 52, Mr. President. Notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceedings for which notice is required except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present, Mr. President.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. The Senate notes the increased and alarming state of political intimidation and violence in Kogi Central Senatorial District of Kogi State. Mr. President, the Senate is aware on Saturday, 3rd March 2018, the empowerment program I organized for my constituents at Afim's Hotels, Oro Street, Lagos Highway, Okene, was disrupted by hoodlums and miscreants. The Senate is further aware that the Nigerian Police Area Commander, Okene, and the Division Police Officer of Okene, Okehi, and Adavi local governments are very much aware of the empowerment program and the political violence unleashed on beneficiaries and supporters gathered to witness the event and did nothing about it. Worried that indeed political violence, kidnapping, killings, assassinations of my constituents and political supporters in Kogi State, Kogi Central Senatorial District in Kogi State, has become the order of the day, and the police has chosen to turn a blind eye. The Senate is further worried that I, as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, cannot go to my senatorial district to carry out a peaceful empowerment program for my constituents without being harassed and intimidated. Deeply worried that a lot of my constituents and supporters were thoroughly beaten up, badly injured, and some of them kidnapped and later dumped in bushes and uncompleted building. Indeed, as I speak to you, a lot of my constituents are laying critically injured and traumatized in hospital across Kogi Central Senatorial District. The Senate knows that and acknowledges that right to peaceful assembly and association is one of the fundamental rights contained in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, which is the supreme law of this country. Troubled that the Nigerian Police Area Commander and the Divisional Police Officer of Okene, Okehi, and Adabi, which are local government areas under my senatorial district, seems to be under undue influence and strong control of the local government area administrators, called caretaker chairman. Further trouble that this political intimidation and violence has seemingly increased because of the 2019 general election, which is less than a year away. Seriously disturbed, Mr. President, that if nothing is done, to ensure that the Nigerian police force carry out their statutory responsibilities as enshrined in the Constitution and their enabling act, Mr. President, there might be a complete breakdown of law and order in Kogi Central Senatorial District and indeed the whole of Kogi State in the upcoming 2019 general election. Accordingly resolved, Mr. President, that the Senate do set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the circumstances that led to the destruction and violence against the empowerment program of Senator Ahmed Salau Ogembe, humble self, Kogi Central Senatorial District, and determine the involvement of the Nigerian Police Force or other persons, authority at the local government area, and recommend measures to curb further occurrence. Mr. President, I would like to add an addendum to it. It might interest you to know that before the empowerment program, I contacted the Commissioner of Police. I wrote requesting for security for the empowerment, but I was told that the Commissioner of Police was not in the country. So I was referred to the DC Ops. So the DC Ops milited the letter down to the area commander that controls Okene, Okehi, and Adabi local government. My SLA was with the DC Ops, and he agreed to provide 20 men to secure the area of the empowerment. And I was given the number of the area commander, and I called him, and it was confirmed that 20 men will be there before 7 a.m. Mr. President, at 7 a.m., I called the area commander. The man switched off his phone. He was not picking up his phone. I kept calling. At the end of the day, he picked up his phone and he said, no, that there's no way you'll be able to provide police right now. There are other issues in other areas. I said, I told you I have about 1,500 women that will be getting their seed capitals to do, for the empowerment program, to start their little businesses. You cannot tell me that you don't have enough men to man that area. Even if it's few, if you promise me 20 and you cannot give me 20, you should be able to give me at least 10 so that it can protect this area. He refused to do it, Mr. President. And it's as if that the area commander that is in control of Okene, Okehi, Adabi sucked out the entire police from the local government. I didn't see any presence of police anywhere in the local government. Mr. President, when this empowerment program was supposed to be, where it's supposed to be holding, they tried to resist us. The caretaker chairman of Okehi and the caretaker chairman of Adabi and Okehi, Okene and Okehi local government, they resisted us. But the youths were angry and they resisted them, and they made sure that the empowerment program was held at the same location. They secured the location and it was held successfully. Mr. President, to my dismay, overnight, they went, the caretaker chairman of Okehi by the name Abdurrahim Ohiare, and the caretaker chairman of Okene local government by the name Abdurazak Mohammed went on rampage with thugs, vigilante, heavily armed, with SARS of the Nigerian police at the state level, given to them by the OC SARS, and also a special vigilante group called Danga Security Group. They went on rampage, destroy everywhere. Destroy every supporters of mine in that senatorial district. They went on, even the former House of Rep member, A.K. Saliu, house was also destroyed. As I speak to you now, Mr. President, my family house was destroyed as well. So, Mr. President, this is not Banana Republic. This is Nigeria. This is Federal Republic of Nigeria. And I'm sure that every effort that the Inspector General of Police is putting in place to curb insecurity in this country, when somebody is downstairs that is bestowed with the responsibility to take care of the people down at the local level, like the OC-SARS, giving SARS men to local government administrators to harass people, kill people, maim people, intimidate people, vandalize people's property. Mr. President, I think the time is now. We must stop this. And this 8th Senate, Mr. President, as always is a responsible Senate and always been adjudicating on issues that borders on security of lives and property. And the time is now, Mr. President, to stand up. Because today it can be Ahmed Salah Ogembe, tomorrow it can be Alhaji Bukola Saraki. Mr. President, this needs to be done now. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I so move.
Senator Baribe.
Thank you. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I have just one worry. And that worry is that this has always happened. This is not the first time we are seeing this. Senators versus governors, governors versus House of Rep members, National Assembly versus those. It has always happened. Let me put it this way, sir. From what I know, our dear colleague, Ogembe, is from the same local government, I think. Yes. With the governor. And of course, you're on different divides. He's in a different party, you're in a different party. So why would the governor want you not to empower your people? Because they are the same people like the governor's people. Doesn't matter whether it comes from you or it comes from another person. It is still the same people that we all swore to defend that. This also gives us a case for worry in another sense. We, as the National Assembly, we have sought to see how to solve the security problem. And part of the way we want to solve the security problem is by encouraging the establishment of state police. There's no state police today, yet somebody is using even that one that he's not supposed to be in charge of by making sure that he uses even the police itself, because from what our senator has said, the area commander did not do what he was instructed to do, to provide security. Of course, we would also need to ask the Inspector General of Police why that area commander is still in office, not being suspended, having failed to do his duty. Tomorrow, we will now hear that he will be promoted, because that's how they promoted Bill, rather than remove him from the force. But that is not really my worry. My worry today is this. Why would a member of this hallowed chamber not be left to do what he needs to do for his constituents? Because it may be him today, but it might be another person tomorrow. That means that anytime a governor doesn't like what you're doing, he will now send the local government chairman to disrupt anything that you're doing. And of course, you know what the effect will be? If I'm ready to do my own empowerment, then I go and get my own vigilantes and my own armed men and wait. Because that is what the man is telling them to do. Ogembe can't go home anymore without being armed, because he's no longer sure of his security. So how can we live in this country and have an avowed war hero? An avowed war hero who told us that once I step into office, I will take care of security. Yet things are worse than ever. It gives a great cause for concern, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, we shouldn't put this under the table. We must get to the root of this.
Take your seats.
Yesterday it was Dino Melaye. Today it's Ogembe. Maybe tomorrow it will be Aidoko. The same Kogi state. And of course, what does that tell us? Mr. President, people have been running around and saying we need youth. The man in Kogi is a youth. Why is it that this youth does not know what he's doing? And there is so much insecurity in this particular place. That does not give credence to anything that you're saying, hand over this country to youth. Suppose we hand it over to him. What will now happen? We will now have a broken country and a country that is thrown to the dogs. So you can now see that it is not youth, it is the ideas that you have that decide how you act. No matter what happens, Mr. President, we need to commiserate with our colleague, Ogembe, and tell him that there is only one thing that he needs to do. Never be afraid of your fellow man. They don't control your destiny. He will not determine whether you will come back here or not. And in fact, I want to encourage you to go for that seat. Because if that seat of governor is what is making him feel so big, let somebody else challenge him for that seat. It's votes that will determine it.
Well guided.
Of course. Because I don't think that we can continue in this way, where senators will now be afraid to go home to their own constituents because somebody is sitting down there deciding that he will be a little Hitler inside his command. I so submit, Mr. President.
The leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleague. You know, in issues of this nature, I try as much as I can to find the striking balance between being a leader in this Senate and then being a senator representing a constituency more particularly described as Kebbi South. You see, I am in difficulty to understand what exactly is happening in this country. And my difficulty is, this issue has been a bipartisan issue. And that is the more reason why some level of seriousness has to be put into it. Mr. President, you will remember vividly. And what is even worrisome is that these people don't learn lessons, even where the lessons are clearly visible. Let me remind us quickly of the story of a commissioner of police or an assistant commissioner of police or something called Mbu in Rivers. Mbu. Can anybody tell me where that Mbu is now? Can you see? If people who are supposed to build their institutions decide against the oath of their office to make themselves available to undemocratic forces who accidentally occupy democratic positions, then there is a huge problem. Ours as a parliament is to do whatever is humanly possible to see that this does not define our democracy. Definitely our democracy cannot be defined by the conduct of those who only by accident happen to occupy democratic offices. I have earlier said that those people who erroneously believe, that they are fighting on behalf of someone, and more particularly hiding under the umbrella of Mr. President to do certain things. I know Mr. President. I know him. He's a democratic person. There is no how, there is no how anybody can do what is reprehensible and attribute it to that. So let us first of all separate that from the conduct of those who are acting this way. The second issue that must worry all of us is that Dino Melai happens to be an APC person, and the governor is APC. And the reason why I'm giving this example is to show you that it is bipartisan, because yesterday it was Dino, and some people can have the liberty of saying that, okay, it's Dino, if Dino is creating problem. But what problem has Ugembe created? For example, I'm just giving you an example, sir. Wait, I'm just giving you an example. No, because you said, because the problem that you have created is to say that people must account for the office they hold. And in this country is a problem. People have forgotten that the fundamental work of parliament, sir, fundamentally, is to, on behalf of people, hold the executive to account. That's our duty. It doesn't go more than that. The option we have is either to do that duty and answer our name as legislators, or to abandon it and do a great violence to our democracy. May God not let us be on the other side of abandoning the function and the duties of the office to which all of us have sworn here to uphold, protect, and defend. The issue of Kogi is a very serious matter. From what I have been reading to date, I have tried my best to restrain myself from commenting, but it appears that we can validly say that the governor of Kogi State is a threat to our democracy. We have every reason to say so. And I think it is important that the party to which he belongs and the leadership of the party to which he belongs should caution this particular person and bring him to order. He is not representing us well as an ambassador of a party that have promised to entrench democracy, to which we are all committed. To my colleagues, let us not take this issue as bipartisan, please. Let us look at it from a very serious point of view. I will see, so let us not look at it as partisan, sorry. My brother and friend, I'm sure, is in a position to tell you what he went through, even in his capacity as Deputy Senate President, in the hands of his governor. So it's a general issue. But I think that this Senate has a responsibility to, at least today, take a position that will show to Nigerians that we will live by the oath of office we have taken, and that we love this country more than we love our parties. We love this country more than we love any other person who pretends to represent any other interest. The interest of this Senate is the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and it must be made clear to each and every person that is a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Senator Dinamilai.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, Dino Melai, Kogi West. Mr. President, before I give my short contribution, I want to use the opportunity to welcome Senator Ugembe to the club. Mr. President, when I raised my voice high on this hallowed chamber about the satanic manifestation of the governor of Kogi State, politicians were either afraid to join me to call for justice, or for fear of being attacked or for political benefits, they remained quiet. But Mr. President, they forgot that in an unjust society, silence is a crime. Today, it is getting closer and closer. I sympathize with Senator Ugembe, and I conclude that you are crying late. Mr. President, I will recount shortly what I went through in the last few days in the hands of the coronated governor of Kogi State. Mr. President, the holy book that is my anchor says in Psalm 23 that though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, but I fear no evil. Mr. President, on the 4th of March, I was arraigned by the party I worked for. I was arraigned by the government I helped to install. And I appeared before the court where the federal government insisted, Mr. President, that they are opposing my bail vehemently, using the word vehemently, for a concocted minor offense. To the glory of God, that God is above men, I was granted bail. Mr. President, I use this opportunity to appreciate over 30 of my colleagues who were in court to solidarize with me. Mr. President, having been granted bail, I was quickly alerted that there were over 100 policemen from SARS, that they were outside the court waiting to arrest me. Mr. President, I was wondering that this is not true. My staff and friends went downstairs and confirmed that fierce-looking men carrying arms and ammunition with SARS written on their caps and vests, some of them masked. When they took pictures and videos of them outside and brought it to me inside the court to show me, Mr. President, even if you were going for the head of Shekau, you wouldn't have prepared any better. Mr. President, I was in that court for hours, and they laid siege for hours. Mr. President, every car coming into the court premises and outside the court was being checked. Somehow, because I serve a living God, the angels of the Lord took me out of that court unnoticed and unhurt. And Mr. President, they lay siege for more than 5 hours after I was resting on a bed. Mr. President, it may sound ridiculous, but we have a convention, Mr. President, and practice in this country, that when the security agencies are interested in interrogating, investigating, or inviting any senator, they write the Senate President to provide such senators. Why would you demean the integrity and posture of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and you lay siege for a senator of the Federal Republic as if you are there to arrest a common criminal? Mr. President, the thing to see and watch is this. These people who came from Kogi State Police Command, from the South section of Kogi State. The people who went to Ogembe went also from the South section of Kogi State. Mr. President, I will play before you pictures showing government house vehicles that came with these police people. The chairman of Okene local government and others were also in the premises of the court with these SARS people. The AO, government house, Kogi State, even entered the court. He entered inside the court, Mr. President. I saw him. If police is doing their duty, what are they doing with government house, Kogi State government house vehicles, among the retinue of vehicles that brought the police officers? What are appointees of the governor doing with the SARS people? Mr. President, the governor of Kogi State have a pattern. He appointed hoodlums, retired thugs as caretaker chairman. So whenever he wants to attack you, he unleashed this chairman on you. When it was my own incident, Mr. President, it was my local government chairman that led onslaught, that is facing trial right now before the courts. His own is also his local government caretaker chairman. Mr. President, how long shall we continue in sin? and ask grace to abound. It is time we use Kogi State as an example, Mr. President. This chamber should not close our eyes to the dictatorial, draconian, satanic approach of governance by the governor of Kogi State. We must take the bull by the horn, not because I'm from Kogi. And Yaya Bello cannot shut me up. I will not keep quiet. He must pay salaries. He must use our money the way we want him to use it. Mr. President, we can call on the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to declare a state of emergency in Kogi State, to serve as a deterrent to other governors who believe that power starts with them and ends with them. Mr. President, we should not take it lightly. It may be Dino yesterday. It may be Ogembe today. We are not sure of who it will be next. Let us curtail this when we can. Mr. President, I thank you for listening. And I want to say this is an opportunity for you to help us in Kogi State. It's an opportunity for you to help us in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. There's never been killing in Kogi the way it is this period. There's never been kidnapping in Kogi the way it is now. There's never been death of different magnitude the way it is in Kogi State now. Mr. President, the ultimate goal we have and we swore to uphold is to uphold the security of life. In Kogi, lives are not secured, welfare are not secured. The only way to do it is to declare a state of emergency and let amelioration take place. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to support the motion brought by my distinguished colleague, Senator Ogembe. Whilst listening to all the contributors, I became a bit worried. Worried, Mr. President, not just for Kogi State, worried for Nigeria, and worried for 2019. I think every politician in Nigeria, listening to what is going on here, and having witnessed or watched or heard about the events going on in that state, should be worried about the future of democracy in Nigeria. My worry stems from the fact that Nigeria, with a population of about 180 million, should we have refugee crisis, the whole of West Africa cannot contain us. The nearest country to us is Ghana, with just a population of 24 million. It behoves on all, whether you're a governor, you're a senator, or you're just a voter, to take actions that will bring about peace, sustainable peace in this country. Without peace, we cannot have development. My colleagues have said one or two things and touched the office of governor. Any responsible governor will want to see peace in the state. Mr. President, you had the privilege of serving one time as a governor. And I do know that you would never have indulged in the kind of thing that is going on in Kogi State. When I had the opportunity to serve as a governor, I gave more security to people who were even in opposition to me. Some of them even thought that they are taking over. When they are arriving at the airport, I will make sure that the Commissioner of Police will detail not less than 25 policemen to protect them, because I did not want them to kidnap themselves and then make news in the newspapers and say Governor Fabio has arranged to kidnap his opponent. Their houses were always guarded. In fact, in one of them who contested on the platform of the then ACM, I had an APC, Armored Personnel Carrier, stationed in front of his house to ensure his security. I wasn't policing him. I wanted to make sure he did not kidnap himself, because it was a time for drama. You know, I didn't want any kind of melodramatism. So to come and hear that the governor can intentionally order an area commander to withdraw all the policemen in a particular vicinity because a distinguished senator is about to carry out an event, I think is most reprehensible and condemnable
and it's something that this Senate must condemn in totality. We must also draw the attention of the Inspector General of Police to the action of this area commander. I don't want to believe that that governor in that state could be responsible for what is going on. But I think what Dino has said, and what my brother, Senator Nala, said, must be a food for thought for all of us. That people should find themselves in power through election and not through concoction. Because if you truly want to rule your people, you want to serve your people, you go through the due process, they would have been able to assess you both in character and in learning before giving you the opportunity. But what happened there, which we are correcting now with constitutional amendment, the aberration that occurred, may the soul of the man who won that election, the former governor, out to rest in perfect peace. There is no way that man would have been governor after going through what he went through, and this kind of thing will be happening. The shenanigans that we are seeing in Kogi State today is something that we should not only condemn, but we must call the attention of the authorities to it. Because this is how the Wild West started, and democracy came to an end. We must not look at it from a point of, oh, it is Kogi State. We must look at it from a point of view that this is a threat, a major threat to democracy. A major threat to democracy. And the best place to address this issue, sir, it is here in the parliament. Because this is the only evidence that, yes, indeed, Nigeria is in the class of democratic nations in the world. Without the parliament, there will still have been government in Nigeria. You have the judiciary, you have the executive, and then you have one man rolling out orders. This is the only place that shows that there is democracy. And therefore, my brother Ogembe, you came to the right place. We will take necessary actions and necessary resolutions. And we do hope that the authorities will listen to us. I just want to say, may the soul of those who lost their lives rest in perfect peace. And for those who are wounded, may God Almighty heal them. But please, sir, let us use Kogi State as a test case on how we can truly work with the federal government of Nigeria to bring peace to bear in Nigeria, in order for us to save democracy come 2019. Because if people have to resort to self-help, it means that Nigeria will just be like Libya. Nigeria will be like Libya. There will be no leadership after 2019. That is my worry. Because the taxpayers' money is used to maintain the police, and the police cannot turn the gun on the people. Or when they are needed, they would say that they are not available. This is a shock to me, and I'm worried about the future, and I do hope that the decision from this Senate will serve as a test case for others all over the country. There is no, by the way, Senator Baribe, no governor in Nigeria intentionally fights a senator. There is none. What is happening in Kogi State, I believe that it is, even in the, I thought it was APC at first, because of Senator Dino, then suddenly it is now Ogembe, PDP. So I think it's a function of character of the individual. So we must realize that state police is still essential for this country for us to maintain peace. Every single state of the federation must have the ability to protect itself, and that can only come through the state police. So I don't want us to throw the baby away with the bad water inside. I don't want us to use this one case that is happening now to destroy a very well thought out decision that will eventually help us in a fractured way to be able to bring peace to Nigeria. That is my submission, sir.
Okay, just take one more control of the Chief Whip, and then we'll go to prayers.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, my dear colleagues. I'm Olushola Adeyeye. I represent the great people of Osun Central. I rise first to express solidarity with my brother, Senator Ogembe from Kogi, and to say that every senator, every rep, every House of Assembly person, every Nigerian of whatsoever political persuasion has a right to free assembly. The courts of Nigeria have ruled conclusively that we do not even need police permission to assemble in public, for as long as your assembly is in peace. And from all accounts, the assembly to which our colleague was referring was a peaceful one. And therefore, it is difficult to understand why the police would think it is their business to meddle in a peaceful assembly. Because he was elected by the people of his own constituency, he also, until he leaves office, is answerable to those people. He can embark on whatsoever program he deems fit to be in the best interest of his people. And it will not matter whether or not it belongs to the government of the day in his state, or whether or not it belongs to the government, that the party that currently controls the federal government of Nigeria. Every governor and every president and all of us took an oath and we swore that we will do good to all men and women without fear and without favor, without affection or without ill will. Thank you, my senior advocate of the Nigerian Senate. When we see what has just been described to us in detail, it tells us the huge tragedy that for so long has afflicted Nigeria. And that is the tragedy of small minds occupying great offices. Unfortunately, this tragedy defies party affiliation, because we have seen it with APC governors. We have also seen it with PDP governors. My own concern, Mr. President and my dear colleagues, is how do we solve it? I don't think it is enough for us to simply pass another resolution. I believe if the senator of a republic cannot exercise his fundamental civic liberties, then no citizen of that republic can have a guarantee of civil liberties. For that reason, I think the Inspector General of Police must be asked to investigate and to report to the Nigerian Senate within the next 1 week on the travesty of human liberties and civil rights that we have been told occurred in Kogi State. If we are not satisfied with what we are told by the IG, I believe we must take it further. We must summon the minister in charge of police, that is the Minister of Interior, not to a committee, but on a Wednesday, when it will be televised, to answer to us and to answer to the Nigerian people when the Nigerian police will begin to safeguard the civil liberties of Nigerians. And if we are not satisfied with the response of the police, I believe we should take it further. I believe we should go to the president. We should report all the abuses happening in any part of Nigeria that the IG has failed to take control of. We should report to the Minister of Police. I am a member of the APC and a proud member of the APC. But I came into politics from the constituency of human rights. I almost lost my life fighting to entrench democracy in this country. I ran a pirate radio. We began with Radio Freedom, and then we went to Radio Kudirat. I was the voice of Radio Kudirat. Yes, you are looking for us, but the God that saved Dino saved me too. The thing we must say is, if we keep quiet, as the late Ellie Wesley would say, they came for the Catholic, but because I'm not a Catholic, I kept quiet. And next, they came for the Presbyterian, and because I'm not a Presbyterian, I kept quiet. They went to Ekeremadu, and because I'm not from Enugu, I kept quiet. When they will come for Adeyeye, there will be nobody to shout because they have gotten rid of every other person. The Nigerian Senate must take this seriously. I don't think it is enough to pass a resolution. I think the IG must be asked specific questions. I think if it satisfies us and he can redress it, he should rest there. But if we are not satisfied, I think we should go to the minister. And if we are not, I don't think, we should summon the president here, I think we should go to him. I think we should go to the president and we should let it be said that our own government will protect every Nigerian, including those who are in opposition to us. Because that is what we all swore to uphold. That is my submission. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Distinguished colleague, yes, we wanted to.
Sorry, sir, I just want to possibly tell our brother again that some of us passed through this road before. But by the grace of God, we are here. And those oppressors are at home. So it is God that gives power. No, it's a serious matter. Just one, I'm sure you know the story. You know, Your Excellency, sometimes in life, people think they are God. They play God because God has given an opportunity to pretend over the affairs of men. So they take it that they became what they are by their special power and assume God. Ultimately, God intervenes to show them that they are not God. Your Excellency, in the last, between 2011 and 2015, I passed through something more than what was telling us here. The governor of my state, as he then was, my friend, my brother, a professional colleague, a lawyer for that matter. There was nothing he didn't do to repress me. Traditional rulers were banned from coming to my house. I bought a car for the Association of Traditional Rulers in my Central District. Because they accepted that vehicle, the chairman was removed from office and dethroned as a traditional ruler. But by the grace of God, he's back to his seat. And the man who dethroned him is outside. I arranged for a medical mission to one of my local governments. In fact, that local government is in the federal constituency of the governor. It is that. Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues, we sent talks. And this medical mission had to do with the services of eye doctors. So they brought old people to help them with their sight and issues like that. They sent talks, chased those people away, destroyed all the equipment, and for those old men, because they couldn't run because of their eyesight, most of them had a lot of shock and issues. Your Excellency, we saw worse than that. So, at a particular time, one community wanted to give me a traditional title. The government decreed that there will be no national title in that state for the next 1 year. 1 year. You know, so the Commissioner of Police came to the place to enforce it. First, he came to my house and said, Governor said she's going to enforce the decree in Enugu State that no chieftain's title for the next 1 year. And I told the Commissioner of Police to go to the venue. After going to the venue, come and tell me if it's something you can stop. The then Commissioner of Police went there, came back, and said that you take the whole of 82 division to stop it, of the Nigerian Army. And that chieftain's title program took place. The interesting thing, sir, is that today I'm here. And the man who was responsible for all these things is right there in his village. Because it's only God that gives power. So I'm sure that people have similar stories. So I'm saying this because, sir, that sometime last year, when they wanted to recall, I advised the governor that they are wasting the resources of that state. That is mission impossible. They said I was talking nonsense. They took 3 pages and I was busy me. I was still hearing about impeachment of the records today. All the money have been wasted. The money that will be used to pay salaries of people in Kogi State was used to mobilize people to go and Dino. Here, those people are still unpaid. Dino is still here. It has not been recorded. So today I'm advising the governor again that the road is traveling will not lead him to anywhere. Because ultimately, these people he's seeing here, by the grace of God, will be back here, and he will leave the office. If he doesn't stop, there's no way he will come back in Kogi State in 2019. Never, he will not. God will show him that he's God of justice. He determines who gets what. And that is exactly a message to all those people who have caused all kinds of problems in Nigeria at different levels. So the problem in Nigeria here is that our democracy is receding. And the international community needs to know this. Who said that army cannot take over in Nigeria? It is possible. Yes, it is possible. Let's not joke with our democracy. The way they are going. So that's the issue. So today, somebody's house, last few weeks, we are talking about the house of the senator was destroyed in Kaduna State. We are talking about how security people left siege on Dino. We are talking about Kwankwaso, who was stopped from going to a state he ruled for 8 years. He could not go to that state. We saw people carrying clubs waiting for him at the airport. In Kaduna, cannot organize a meeting. And we say we are talking about a democracy. And someone says this democracy will continue this way. It's not going to continue. People are holding meetings every day on how to deal with each and every one of us here. So the national community need to know this, because they helped us to restore democracy to Nigeria. And some gang of people are trying to truncate the entire democracy. So I just want to appeal to distinguished colleagues. I need to take this matter seriously. It's not about us. It's about our democracy. It's about our country. Ghana just had their independence 2 days ago. It was celebration. Nobody knew their independence anniversary. Nobody knew who is who and which tribe they come from. They came together as Ghanaians to celebrate their country. The president of Ghana was in America, addressing all the governors in America. It was a glorious day for Ghana. Today, for Africa indeed, because it was calling Americans to come and establish in Africa. But here, Nigeria is losing our position in the Community of Nations. We are now a second-class citizen or second-class nation, not just in Africa, but even in West Africa, where we are supposed to be controlling. We are losing in every dimension. The only institution left to save our democracy, to save our nation, is this National Assembly. And we will never shy away from that responsibility. No matter the oppression, no matter the intimidation. Men will do whatever they want to do, but God ultimately will have the final say. So I just want to appeal that let us pursue this with a single-mindedness of saving our country and saving our democracy. May God bless Nigeria.
Point of order, yes.
Belated as it may be, Mr. President, I just wanted to draw attention to Order 53-4, which says that a senator must confine his observations to the subject under discussion. I may not introduce any matter that is, and that was just because of the personality of the Deputy Senate President and the mention of the father who said that the military cannot take over. We believe strongly that with the will of all Nigerians and the support of God, that we have confined the idea of dictatorship to the background and democracy will thrive forever. So that is what I wanted to call his attention to, that that is the will of all 180 million Nigerians, that never again shall we go under military rule. And that is not even the will. Now, that is not even contemplated in Africa, not to talk of the most populous nation in the black race. And that is what I wanted to say. So I thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, your point of order is noted. Let me just re-emphasize on that. I'm sure you are taking DSP out of context. I think it is clear that what we all say, we all support totally in the issue of democracy. It has come to stay, and there's no other alternative. That also just leads me up, as you rightly say. I just came back from Ghana, where they were celebrating 25 years of uninterrupted democracy, and as such, it is something that we too will celebrate and continue to celebrate even more than that. Before I go to prayers, I just wanted to just say why it's important that we take this discussion today, or this debate, which has really unfortunate incident that happened to Senator Gembe, because it's not really just about Kogi State, but it is clear from what we are seeing that Kogi State is becoming the point where there is a threat to our democracy. We are going to be very serious, and it cannot be seen to define our democracy, because this is not what our democracy is about. For the role we continue to play in the Committee of Nations, we must be seen to make good examples to other parts of the world. And that's why when we go to prayers, distinguished colleague, I want you all also to contribute and see we must get to the bottom of this. We must take action that will prevent this kind of thing from happening, and we must look at what our prayers would be that will have that effect, and condemn this in the strongest terms, because this kind of action is totally unacceptable. It cannot be allowed to continue, because as we say, it just starts with one state. Some of us, as many of us here, have been privileged to be governors before. We have almost 20 years in democracy. This cannot be the democracy that we should be talking about after 20 years. And it's totally unacceptable. And we must make sure that we use this to address, as DSP said, that's how, not only in Kogi, we saw the case in Kaduna State, how a governor can proudly say he's going to bulldoze a house in Nigeria at this time, and we're all still keeping quiet. These are things that we must condemn totally, so that they are not the kind of reflection people define as democracy about. So I think when we go to prayers, we must be able to define what those prayers are, as the chief whip has said, that will bring out immediate action to prevent this kind of thing. So I'll go to prayer. Prayer one, and the only prayer that has here, that the Senate do set up another committee to investigate the circumstances that led to the destruction and violence against the empowerment program of Senator Ahmed Salau Gembe, and determine the involvement of Nigerian police or other persons, authority at the local government areas, and recommend measures to curb further occurrence. Yeah, amendment leader.
Sir, we cannot close our eyes to the contributions that have culminated in accepting this motion, in the sense that if we restrict ourselves to Kogi, I think we are not doing justice to the matter. Having accepted the fact that there are conducts that are undemocratic enough to become a threat to our democracy, I think this committee should do a comprehensive investigation, including Kaduna. Why? Okay.
Leader, what I would suggest, my thoughts that this prayer covers largely all the issues as regards to what happened in Kogi State. But I think, Chief Whip, for us to have for it to be a bit more potent, I think we need to break down the prayer to specifics. One will be to investigate the destruction and violence. Two is to investigate the involvement of the police. Three, yeah. So I think that, so that if we're okay, if you so can you guide us then?
Mr. President, distinguished senators. No, he asked me. No, he's asked.
So let me put the prayer. We're saying that prayer one should read to investigate the circumstances that led to destruction and violence against the empowerment program of Senator Ogembe. That is one. To also determine the involvement of the Nigerian police, clearly. Two, that's two. Three was also to, what's Chief Whip? I think, is there any other thing you added in your?
No, what I was proposing was that it should be stepwise. That in determining the involvement of the police, we should take it to the very top from the beginning.
Anyway, whether we're satisfied with the report. Okay, so, okay, all right. So if we are going to determine the involvement of the police, then we must have a time frame. But what? Okay, what's your third prayer?
I mean, the first prayer actually, as far as this resolution is concerned, is to condemn the act first and foremost. Simplicity. We have to condemn. That is the first. Then the second, we set a committee, an ad hoc committee to investigate. Then the third, in investigating the IG, we invite the IG here. The IG should be summoned, invited here, because let's know when police, SARS is becoming unbearable. That everywhere SARS is being used to intimidate people. And we are going close to 2019. What will happen? So in condemning this act of, number one, in condemning, is to let the youth of Nigeria know that a few days ago, we passed Not Too Young to Rule. And this man is not a good example for the youth. So the youth should stand up against this governor, who should be an epitome of service for youth enhancement. We've just passed, amended the constitution to say not too young to run. Then this will be a bad example.
Okay, distinguished colleagues, let me take the first prayer then, and then I'll take someone to second. There is a proposed amendment, and then we need someone to second it. One is that the Senate condemns in totality this act, and in strongest terms, and we believe it is a threat to our democracy. Yes, can somebody please second that? Yes, Senator Gobri.
Good morning, distinguished colleagues. I second that the Senate strongly condemns this act as actually sponsored by Mao.
All right, distinguished colleagues, those in prayer of prayer one as amended, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Second amendment is that the Senate do set up a ad hoc committee to investigate the circumstances that led to destruction and violence against the empowerment program and determine the involvement of the Nigerian police force. Who is seconding that amendment? Yes, Senator Ajola.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleague. I rise to second the motion as amended that the Senate should set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the destruction of the poverty alleviation program of Senator Ogembe. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of that amendment say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Now, the third amendment was the issue of us summoning the IG. Now, at one point, is that after the report or is that before the report? Senator Manja, you want to say something?
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, things manager get us out. Now that you have set up an ad hoc committee to investigate what happened, you cannot preempt the outcome of that investigation by inviting the IG to this place. I think it's important for us to allow the ad hoc committee to do its job. And then the outcome, the result of the ad hoc committee's investigation will now tell the full story.
Can we put a time frame for this report? Because it was 2 weeks. All right, that's well agreed. 2 weeks that report should be submitted to plenary. Before the end of the day, we'll announce the composition of the ad hoc committee. Let me, on behalf of our colleagues, Senator Ogembe, very unfortunate incident that happened to you. We thank the Almighty God that for your life, and that we will definitely not stop until we get to the bottom of this and hold whoever was responsible for this, because as I said, And these actions might have been seen just in your local government, but truly, if we don't do something about it, is a threat to our entire democracy, and we must all stand up. Particularly now that a lot of consideration is even given to state police. People listening to this, I'm sure will start having thoughts. So even this action alone is something that isn't a threat to some of our reforms that we want to embark on. So we must be seen to be doing the right thing. I thank you for your contributions. Yes, point of order, Senator.
Mr. President, my very respected colleagues, Dino Melaye, Kogi West. Mr. President, Order 43 of the Rules of the Senate, by the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make explanation, although there may be no question put before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought towards or may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms and proposed statements shall be submitted in details to the President of the Senate, while his leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, I rise this morning to draw the attention of the Nigerian Senate to the issue of the Peace Corps that we have received communication from Mr. President, reasons why he will not assent to it. Mr. President, I want to say today that I've received hundreds of text messages from my constituents who do believe that the Peace Corps is not only important, but should be given priority by Mr. President, and Mr. President should rather withdraw his should withdraw him not assenting to this bill. Mr. President, the same thing happened when the civil defense was to be established. There was also the same complaint that there's no money and all that. But today, we can see the advantage of the civil defense and how they have also helped in securing the integrity of this nation. Not only this integrity of this nation, but they have also helped in the security architecture of this country, especially in the area of pipeline vandalization. Mr. President, $5.5 billion was borrowed from Eurobond. Not part of it will the youth of this country benefit from. $1 billion is to be spent now on security. How does that affect the youth of this country? Mr. President, without fear of favor, the PDP in 16 years borrowed 6 trillion naira. This government in 3 years have borrowed 11 trillion. But there is no specific program that will empower the youth of this country. As I speak to you, Mr. President, 500 billion was earmarked for the empowerment and social investment, they call it. But we have not seen any impact. But if the Peace Corps is given an opportunity to exist, hundreds and thousands will be employed, and this will help to fight unemployment in this country. So, Mr. President, I want to say that we are calling that the Senate will revisit this matter. We may need to write Mr. President to review his position. If not, we have the power on behalf of the Nigerian youth. We have the power on behalf of those who have voted us to veto Mr. President, so that the people will become the ultimate beneficiary of this. The youth of this country must be given priority, they must be respected, and their position we must also respect. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Gershom Bassi on the Flags and Coat of Arms Amendment Act 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Flags and Coats of Arms Act Cap F31 LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2018 SB
565, first reading.
Flags and Coat of Arms Act, Cap F31 LFN 2004, Amendment Bill 2018, SB 565, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President and my distinguished colleague, the second business of the day is presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Chukwuka Utazi on the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, Amendment Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, Amendment Bill 2018, SB 640, first reading.
Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, Amendment Bill 2018, SB 640, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President and my distinguished colleague, the third business of the day is presentation of the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the National Commission for Peace, Reconciliation and Mediation Establishment, ETC Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator David Umaru, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator David Umaru.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is David Umaru. I represent Niger East Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to move the motion that the Senate will receive the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on National Commission for Peace, Reconciliation and Mediation Establishment Bill 2018, SB 44. I so move.
Senator Gilbert Naji.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Gilbert Naji. I second the motion that the Senate do receive the report of Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the National Commission for Peace, Reconciliation and Mediation, etc. Bill 2018. I so second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the National Commission for Peace, Reconciliation and Mediation, etc. Bill 2018, SB 44. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator David Moore, come and lay the report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleague, the first order of the day is presentation and consideration of the Conference Committee report on the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Agency Establishment, ETC Bill 2018. Mr. President, and distinguished senators will recall that the Senate and the House passed different versions of the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Agency Establishment, ETC Bill 2018. The Conference Committee of both houses have met and harmonized the difference in accordance with the Senate Standing Order 87. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Chukwuka Utazi to move the motion for the Senate to receive and consider the conference report.
Senator Utazi.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Chukwuka Utazi. I represent the good people of Edo Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I also move that the Senate receive the Conference Committee report on a bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Agency as a central body in Nigeria responsible for receiving, requesting, analyzing, and disseminating financial intelligence reports and other information to law enforcement, security and intelligence agencies and other relevant authorities, and for related matters 2018. I so move.
Senator Shehu Sani.
My name is Senator Shehu Sani. I rise to move
I urge to second that the Senate do receive number. The motion raised by the Senator. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do consider the report of the Conference Committee on National Financial Intelligence Agency establishment, etc. 2018, SB 535. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Otazi, present your report.
Mr. President, I remain Chukwuka Otazi, and I continue to represent the good people of Enugu North Central District of Enugu State. Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Bill was passed by the Senate on 27 July 2017 and in the House of Representatives on 29 November 2017. However, there were some differences in what the two houses passed. A conference committee was consulted, therefore, in both houses to reconcile and harmonize the differences of the two versions passed. Membership, the highlights of the differences. That's page 2. Title of the bill. The Senate version provided for agency, while the House version adopted unit. Unit is referred to agency. Therefore, House version adopted. However, wherever the Senate version is adopted, agency should be read as unit. Clause 1, objectives. The Senate version was adopted. Clause 2, establishment of Nigerian Financial Intelligence Agency. Clause 2.1 and 2 of the House version was adopted. Clause 2.3, Senate version was adopted. However, the words and logistical support goods was deleted from both sections. Clauses 3 and 4, composition of board and tenure. By mutual agreement, provision of the board was dropped. The House bill does not have provision for the board as provided in the Senate version. Clauses 3 and 4 of the Senate version by mutual agreement were consequently dropped. Clause 3, functions of the agency. As a consequence of the deletion of clauses 3 and 4 relating to the board, which was provided for in the Senate bill, clause 5 of the Senate bill is now equivalent of clause 3 of the House bill. Clause 3 of House version adopted. The deletion of these clauses and subsequent ones has consequential effects in the numbering of the clauses. Clause 4, powers of the agency. There is a slight difference in section 2C of the clause, therefore House version was adopted. Clause 5, powers of the board. This was also dropped because we looked at the issue of what is happening in the EFCC presently and said that because the board was not functional, we said that it is of no use for this agency we are proposing. And also the Director General, we have the Director General was in the one passed by the Senate. We dropped it and it's now Director, and wherever we have a Director General, it should read the Director. Section 8.1 of the Senate version now, Section 5.1 of the Hamnos Bill is adopted, and that is for the confirmation of the appointee to this position. Section 5.2 of House version was adopted. Paragraph E therefore was deleted. Subsection 3 and 4 of Section 5 of House version adopted. Subsection 5 of the Section 5 Senate version adopted. Clause 19, joint inspections by the unit and relevant supervisory authorities. The House version consolidated Sections 23 and 22 and 23 of the Senate version. The House version was therefore adopted. Clause 20, maintenance of reporting standards. Following the comment on Clause 19 above, Section 24 of the Senate bill is the equivalent of Section 20 Clause of the House bill. Senate version adopted now as Clause 20. Clause 26, transitional and service provision. Clause 26 of Clause 26.1 of House version, equivalent of Clause 35.1 of Senate version, is adopted. However, subsections 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 of the Senate bill were adopted. Schedule as provided by the Senate version relates to proceedings of the board, but with the agreement to delete all the references to the board, the schedule was deleted. Recommendation. The conference committee hereby recommends for the adoption and approval of the harmonized version of the bill as follows: that the Senate do consider and approve the conference committee report on a bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Financial Intelligence. Yes, no, you already said that. Let me read again. That the Senate do consider and approve the conference committee report on a bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit as the central body in Nigeria responsible for receiving, requesting, analyzing, and disseminating financial intelligence reports and other information to law enforcement, security and intelligence agencies, and other relevant authorities, and for related matters 2018 as recommended. 5. Conclusion. On behalf of the conference committee, we wish to thank the National Assembly for the opportunity provided to resolve areas of differences in this bill. We so move.
Contributions, yes, Senator Foster.
My distinguished President of the Senate, distinguished colleagues, I remain Foster Ogola, representing the people of Bayelsa West Senatorial District. Being a conference report, I do not think we require any further debate on this matter, knowing the importance of the National Financial Intelligence Unit to the economy and well-being of Nigeria and its relationship with the Global Financial Intelligence Committee. So I therefore support the adoption of this National Financial Intelligence Unit conference report, and I urge the President of the Senate to put the question.
Any other contributions? Okay. In the absence of no further contributions, let me put the questions then. Those in favor that we approve this conference report, committee report, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. I want to thank the chairman of the anti-corruption, and let me also use this opportunity to pass information. Your colleague in the House of Representatives came to see me last week with the Speaker after your comments on the floor to try to clarify that he was not avoiding you and that he's always made himself available to pass this report. But the good thing is that clearly after your report, this report now got passed quickly, so at least that was achieved. Well, I want to thank members of the Senate for the action we have taken here again in the fight against corruption, because our suspension from the Egmont Group has a lot of ramifications. I hope that by this bill that we have passed today, the conference report, that they will have a second view and readmit us into the process. And I hope on the executive part, they will quickly assent to this and also ensure that the independence of the FIU unit goes beyond just the signing into law. The practicality of seeing it being practiced is also important, and I hope on their part that this will be done so that our country stays as part of the Egmont Group. That has a lot of benefits for our country. I thank you all, my colleagues, for how quickly and how patriotic you came quickly to save the country from this great embarrassment. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President and my distinguished colleague, the second order of the day is presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the screening of Ibrahim Rufai Imam as Grand Qadi Sharia Court of Appeal for the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Distinguished senators will record that a report of the committee was laid on Tuesday, the 30th day of January 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator David Umaru, chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Senator David Umaru.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm David Umaru. I represent Niger East Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to move the motion that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the confirmation of nomination of Honorable Justice Ibrahim Rufai Imam for appointment as the Grand Qadi Sharia Court of Appeal, FCT Abuja. I so move.
Senator James Manja.
Colleagues, James Manja, let us have. I rise to second the motion as moved, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the confirmation of nomination of Honorable Ibrahim Rufai Imam for appointment as the Grand Qadi Sharia Court of Appeal, FCT Abuja. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator David Moore, present your report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, this is the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the confirmation of nomination of the Honorable Qadi Ibrahim Rufai Imam for appointment as the Grand Qadi of the Sharia Court of Appeal of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues will recall that the Senate at its plenary on Thursday, 21st December 2017, deliberated on a request by Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for the confirmation of nomination of Honorable Qadi Ibrahim Rufai Imam for appointment as the Grand Qadi of the Sharia Court of Appeal of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. This appointment was made pursuant to Section 261, Sub 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, which requires that the appointment of a person to the office of the Grand Qadi of the Sharia Court of Appeal of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, shall be made by the President on the recommendation of the National Judicial Council, subject to confirmation of such nomination by this distinguished Senate. The Senate referred the request to this committee via order of referral dated 26th January 2018 and mandated it to screen the nominee and report back with its recommendation. The report shows the methodology adopted in the screening, which is clearly stated. I will proceed to page 3 of the report, which is the finding. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, Honorable Qadi Ibrahim Rufai Imam is a versatile and experienced Qadi who has contributed immensely to the development of Islamic studies and practice over the years. After a critical scrutiny of his CV and other accompanying documents, and having been satisfied about his strength of character, integrity, suitability, competence, and qualifications, find him a fit and proper person for appointment as the Grand Qadi of the Sharia Court of Appeal, Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. General observation: for the avoidance of doubt, we wish to observe that this appointment satisfies the constitutional provision of Section 261, subsection 1, and particularly subsection 3, which provides as follows: a person shall not be qualified to hold office as Grand Qadi of the Sharia Court of Appeal of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, unless A, he is a legal practitioner in Nigeria and has been so qualified for a period of not less than 10 years and has obtained a recognized qualification in Islamic law from an institution acceptable to the National Judicial Council, or B, he has attended and has obtained recognized qualification in Islamic law from an institution approved by the National Judicial Council and has held the qualification for a period of not less than 12 years. And he either has considerable experience in the practice of Islamic law, or 2, he is a distinguished scholar of Islamic law. It should be noted that this appointment became necessary following the retirement of Honorable Qadi Ibrahim Abba as the Grand Qadi Sharia Court of Appeal, FCT. Recommendation: the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, after a careful scrutiny of the CV and other accompanying documents of the nominee, and having been satisfied about his strength of character, integrity, exposure, experience, performance, and qualification, recommends that the Senate do confirm the nomination of Honorable Qadi Ibrahim Rufai Imam for appointment as the Grand Qadi of the Sharia Court of Appeal, Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. I so move.
Yes, Senator Kaura.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Tijani Hayakaura. I represent Zamfara North Senatorial District. Mr. President, I know Honorable Qadi Ibrahim Rufai Imam to be a person of impeccable character. He has been a person that is well known among Islamic scholars in Zamfara State, especially in Abuja here, where he has served for a long period as a Qadi. Following the retirement of the former Grand Qadi, Qadi Ibrahim becomes the most senior Qadi amongst the Qadis in the Sharia court. Mr. President, looking at the recommendation of the committee, especially on item 6.1, that this committee, that this chamber has recognized and relied on, believe that he's a person of has strength of character, exposure, experience, performance, and qualifications. I feel that, Mr. President, I want to call on this Hallowed Chamber to confirm his appointment as Grand Qadi. Thank you, Mr. President.
If there are no other comments, I resolve to Committee of the Whole and Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President and my distinguished colleague, may I at this stage move that the Senate will resolve in the Committee of the Whole to consider this motion.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion as moved by the leader. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, we've all, if there's no objection, let me just put the question then. Unless any, yeah, okay. I'll put the question that those in favor that we adopt the report of the committee for the confirmation of this Honorable Ibrahim Rufai Imam, those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President and my distinguished colleague, may I move that the Senate will back into plenary to report progress.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that we refer to plenary to report progress. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion to refer back to plenary, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Order, Senator Marfa, go back to your seat. Sonu Doji.
Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the screening of Mr. President's nominee for appointment as the Grand Qadi, Sharia Court of Appeal, FCT Abuja, and approved the nomination of Honorable Ibrahim Rufai Imam as the Grand Qadi, Sharia Court of Appeal, FCT Abuja. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate hereby confirm the nomination of Honorable Ibrahim Rufai Imam for appointment as Grand Qadi, Sharia Court of Appeal for the Federal Capital Territory Abuja? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Honorable Ibrahim Rufai Imam is hereby confirmed as the Grand Qadi, Sharia Court of Appeal for the Federal Capital Territory Abuja. Let me, on behalf of the entire Senate, congratulate the new Grand Qadi, Sharia Court of Appeal, Honorable Ibrahim Rufai Imam, and wish him a successful tenure and continue that he plays his role in the judiciary and also in the strengthening our democracy. Okay. Yes, Senator David.
I wish Mr. President, with the permission and permission of the distinguished colleagues, that to inform Mr. President that there is an issue that is of very urgent national importance, which is with regards to the position of the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court. Mr. President, the former CJ of the Federal High Court retired in September 2017. Immediately after that, on the 16th of September 2017, Honorable Justice Kafarati was appointed to act in that position. He was supposed to act for 3 months. That appointment effluted.
Distinguished President of the Senate.
Of December 2017.
Let me also use this opportunity
Thereafter,
to...
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, his appointment was renewed and is due to expire on the 16th of March 2017. The reason why I am bringing this to the attention of this Senate is that the importance of the Federal High Court, particularly as relates to its duties, as enunciated in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. The President is not good to allow that court to remain without a substantive Chief Judge. I'm therefore appealing that when eventually the appointment comes here, that we give this an expeditious treatment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator David Moro. As you know, that this is a chamber that is very, very supportive in ensuring that such important positions are treated expeditiously. So we are waiting eagerly, and once the communication comes from the executive, I'm sure your colleagues will ensure that it is dealt as quickly as possible. As you can see for the Grand Qadi, that was dealt with dispatch. So it's key, as you say, time is running out, but once we get it, we'll appeal to all our members for us to shorten the time frame to turn it around so that there's no vacuum that is left. Distinguished colleagues, let me, just for information purpose, I think with this now, we have treated about 240 confirmations here, of which 227 that we have been affirmative, only 13 negative. I think sometimes people you get the impression that we tend to say no than yes. I think out of 240 since this chamber here, we have done 227 out of 240, of which we have confirmed, and only 13. I think shows the kind of cooperation that we continue to give to the executive. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President and my distinguished colleague, the third order of the day is presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on the report of the Committee on Public Accounts on the status of compliance of practical submission of audited accounts and auditors' report. Distinguished senators will recall that the report of the committee was laid on Wednesday, the 21st day of February 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Matthew Orogide to move the motion for the Senate to consider the committee's report.
Senator Matthew Orogide, Edo South.
Thank you very much, my very vibrant Senate President, my distinguished colleagues. I'm Senator Matthew Orogide. I represent the good people of Edo South Senatorial District. Mr. President, I stand to move that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Public Accounts on the status of compliance of parastatal submission of audited accounts, auditor's report to the Office of the Auditor General for the Federation. I so move.
Senator John Eno.
Mr. President, my name is John Owaneno, Cross River Central. Mr. President, I second the motion that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Public Accounts on the status of compliance of parastatal submission of audited accounts, auditor's report to the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Public Accounts on the status of compliance of parastatal submission of audited accounts, auditor's report to the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Matthew Orogide, present your report.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. Once again, I'm Senator Matthew Orogide. I represent Edo South Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the Auditor General for the Federation is vested with the powers to audit the public accounts of the Federation and all offices and courts of the Federation by provision of Section 85(2) of the Constitution. However, this power is limited to only making comments on annual accounts and auditors' reports thereon of government parastatals, which he is prohibited from auditing by the provision of Section 85(3) of the Constitution, which states that nothing in subsection 2 of this section shall be construed as authorizing the Auditor General to audit the accounts of or appoint auditors for government statutory corporations, commissions, authorities, agencies, including all persons and bodies established by an act of the National Assembly. But the Auditor General shall A. provide such bodies with 1. A list of auditors qualified to be appointed by them as external auditors, and 2. Guidelines on the levels of fees to be paid to external auditors, and B. Comment on their annual accounts and auditors' reports thereon. The challenge of the Office of the Auditor General for the Federation is on how to get the parastatals to comply with the provisions of the Constitution by submitting their audited accounts and auditors' report thereon to his office annually for his comments as required by the provision of Section 85(3)(b) of the Constitution. The Senate Public Accounts Committee observed with sadness that many parastatals are in arrears in the submission of their audited accounts to the Office of the Auditor General for comments as required by the Constitution. This act is also a violation of the enabling acts of these agencies, which in most cases stipulates a period of 6 months following the end of the financial year, in order to stem the tide of this flagrant violation of the Constitution and to ensure accountability in the management of the public accounts of the Federation. The committee embarked on the exercise of ensuring compliance by the parastatals. This inquiry was conducted between September 2015 and December 2017. Methodology. The committee obtained the status of compliance of parastatals with the provision of Section 85(3) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended from the Office of the Auditor General for the Federation. The committee analyzed the submissions and based its report on the analysis. The Auditor General for the Federation report covered 491 federal government parastatals. The compliance status of the parastatals is categorized into the following. 1. Fully complied, 47 out of 491. 2. Those that have not submitted audited reports since inception are 84. Well, 85, but they are 84. Those in arrears from 11 years and above, they are 4. Those in arrears of 6 to 10 years, they are 17. Those in arrears between 3 and 5 years, they are 103. And those in arrears between 1 and 2 years are 235. The parastatals that are fully complied are listed in 3.1. The parastatals in arrears from inception that have never audited their accounts, they are listed in 3.2. The parastatals that have unaudited accounts in excess of 11 years are in 3.3, and then of course the parastatals with arrears of 6 to 10 years are in 3.4. The parastatals with arrears of 3 to 5 years are in 3.5. The parastatals in arrears of 1 to 2 years are in 3.6. And of course, Mr. President, excuse me. Yes. Now, Mr. President, I would quickly want to, say this before I go to findings. Mr. President, we are governed by the fact that all government agencies that have the privilege of having budgets appropriated, to them by the National Assembly, owe this country the responsibility of accounting for monies so appropriated. And the first gap in doing this really is submitting audited accounts to the Office of the Auditor General 6 months into the new financial year. Mr. President, our Constitution says this very expressly. And then, of course, if we go to Section 48 of the Fiscal Responsibility Act, it's very clear that what is expected of all federal government and all its agencies in 48.1, the federal government, under transparency and accountability, the federal government shall ensure that its fiscal and financial affairs are conducted in a transparent manner and accordingly ensure full and timely disclosure and wide publication of all transactions and decisions involving public revenues and expenditures and their implications for its finances. If we go to 2 of that section 48, Mr. President, it says the National Assembly shall ensure transparency during the preparation and discussion of medium-term expenditure framework, budget, annual appropriation bill, and rest. So, Mr. President, the 49.1 says that the federal government shall publish the audited accounts not later than 6 months following the end of the financial year. Mr. President, I want us to be reminded that all the establishment acts of all agencies and facets of government is very clear that their provisions, is such that all the audited accounts must be submitted 6 months into the financial year. So even the enabling act, even the law establishing these agencies have expressly said or stipulated that these agencies must submit the audited account to the Office of the General, and the Office of the General with its comments must send it to the National Assembly, and then of course the National Assembly, both houses, the Senate as it relates to us, will send it now to the Public Accounts Committee, for vetting, and then for onward submission again back to plenary. Mr. President, we have been saddened by the fact that even all calls that have been made to all these agencies, they have repeatedly refused to submit the audited account. Yet they come to the National Assembly every year to ask for appropriation, to ask for money to be appropriated to them, only for those amounts not to be accounted for. Mr. President, we had the privilege of visiting the National Audit Office in Britain recently, and I asked the question, if an agency in Britain does not audit its account for 1 year, what are the implications? The Controller General of Audit in the United Kingdom said it can be one of two things. One, either that agency has become moribund, or that the management is inept. So when you have agencies in Nigeria right from inception have not conducted any audit of their accounts, and then of course they have not submitted to the General, it only means that the National Assembly is only appropriating money to these agencies that will not be accounted for. So this issue, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, is a very grievous one, and I have brought it before the Senate. And I want to say that from the findings of the committee, Mr. President, we have found out that many parastatals are unwilling to submit their audited accounts without being compelled, and this is a violation of the Establishment Act. 2, some parastatals do not take accountability in public expenditure seriously. 3, there are no prescribed penalties for offenders of non-timely submission of audited accounts. There are serious consequences of this for this offense in other crimes. Mr. President, number 4, status of privatized or scrap parastatals are not clear, e.g. Nigerian Coal Corporation, National Board for Commercial Banks, etc. Number 5, the Auditor General for the Federation is handicapped due to budgetary and manpower constraints of the office to issue timely comments on submitted audited accounts. Number 6, Auditor General for the Federation seems to place less premium on high-profile parastatals with huge accounts, as there are less comments on their accounts, e.g. the NNPC, NPA, NIMASA, Central Bank of Nigeria, Third Fund, etc. Number 7, a parastatal like the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, misinterprets the report requirements in their enabling act to violate the Constitution. Number 8, we observe too that absence of board directors to approve appointment of external auditor is often cited as excuse for non-submission of audited reports. But, Mr. President, I want to say that this Senate only last week approved, passed the federal audit bill. And I know that the provisions that are contained in those bills will check some of these excesses of these parastatals. And of course, where we have mentioned penalties that were meted out to defaulting government agencies, I expect that Mr. President will quickly sign, that bill into an act, so that, of course, these erring agencies, will be brought to justice. But in the interim, Mr. President, I implore that the Senate, we take its decision based on the recommendations that we have made to you. The committee hereby makes the following recommendations to the Senate. Number 1, that defaulting parastatals in arrears of submission of audited accounts should be compared to clear the arrears on or before March 2018. 2, that the Senate should withhold budgetary approvals for any parastatal we fail to comply by March 2018 deadline. Number 3, that the Office of the General for the Federation should constantly update and reconcile with parastatals on their status of compliance. Number 4, the Office of the General for the Federation should liaise with the Bureau of Public Enterprises, BPE, and the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation to clarify status of privatized and merged or scrapped parastatals. And number 5, the Auditor General's office should be strengthened through the provision of adequate budgetary allocations. Number 6, the executive arm of government should promptly reconstitute boards of parastatals when they are dissolved, so as to enable them approve the appointment of external auditors. And number 7, Mr. President, this recommendation that the Senate should hasten the consideration of Federal Audit Service Bill which stipulates penalty for offenders. And like I said, this recommendation is being overtaken by the event that the Senate, in magnanimity, passed the audit bill only last week. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I so move.
Chairman, let me ask one question. The existing law that we have, does it not sanction managements of parastatals that don't submit their account? Apart from saying that they must submit within the 6 months. Outside that, is there no sanction or penalties at all in the existing law?
Mr. President, I want to say that looking at all laws that we have, from the Constitution to the Fiscal Responsibility Act, there are no laws, no exact laws that have prescribed sanctions. It's only this act, it's only this bill that we have passed now that we have specified sanctions.
What are the sanctions under the new one we passed? You know,
if it is the individual, that is the chief executive of such agencies, if they default, they will have to pay a minimum. I mean, if they are charged, you know, to the tribunal, the audit tribunal which we have prescribed in the law, that they will pay a penalty of 2 million or go to jail for 5 years or both. And then if it is an agency or a parastatal, of course, you will pay a penalty of 10 million, and then other sanctions that we have recommended there, you know, including, you know, not getting budgetary allocation.
Okay, and let me also ask, this report, are you very sure of the accuracy? Or because I'm going through here, you say 85 parastatals have never seen inception. Can that be true? Is that possible?
Very true. Very true. Yeah, that spells the seriousness of the situation.
Are you sure of what you're saying? Because I see, for example, Bank of Industry, Bank of Agriculture, they have never. And then I see EFCC that is meant to be in charge too. Are you sure of what you're saying?
We are very sure. That's why we have made a recommendation to the Senate. The decision must be taken now, and that decision must serve as a deterrent. That's why the audit bill is very important.
Something is very wrong. So since these organizations have been set up, they have never sent what report?
Truth. Since 2016, by 2017, they ought to have sent in the audited accounts or reports to the Inspector General. They have not even.
Because you see a company as important like TCN. I mean, these are strategic organizations. Okay, distinguished colleagues, let's go to recommendations then and take them. Recommendation 1. 1, that defaulting parastatals in arrears of submission of audited accounts should be compelled to clear their arrears on or before March 2018. Is that still realistic? Yes, Senator Yai.
Mr. President, distinguished colleague, let me thank the Chairman, Senate Committee on Public for the job well done. Mr. President, there are some of these agencies that claim that why they have not submitted their audited account to the National Assembly or to the public account, that the federal government contribution to the capital structure is to the extent of paying dividends to the federal government, that they are not fully owned by the federal government. One of such agencies is the Bank of Industry you mentioned. They will come before us and say, yes, they are not being funded by the federal government budget. And they are also doing business like every other banks. They lend down money, collect return on investment, and at the end of every year, they are supposed to pay dividend into the coffers of the federal government. So not only Bank of Industry, some of the agencies that have been listed to have not complied of submitting this document to the National Assembly, one of them, and also the Bank of Agriculture.
No, sorry, let me stop you. Let's not confuse ourselves. This is submission of report to Auditor General, not to, let's keep it as, not to, I'm not talking about National Assembly, I'm talking about report to the Auditor General. Yes. For your mic.
Carry out 2 different levels of audits. There are agencies of the government that Auditor General's office will go into and carry out a proper audit process. For instance, there is agencies of the federal government, in accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic, mandate or empower the Auditor General to give each of these agencies 3 names of auditor out of which these agencies will take one. Such is not done with the Bank of Industry. Such is not done with the Bank of Agriculture. Such is not done with the Central Bank of Nigeria. Because the act establishing these agencies empowers them to appoint their own auditor without any reference or recourse to the Office of Auditor General. So definitely there is bound to be this kind of confusion. Now, the second line of audit the auditors general will do, for instance, in the Bank of Industry, there are some reports in the office, definitely in the report of Auditor General that refer to the Bank of Industry. They will only move into the extent of the government investment in Bank of Industry and report as part of the Auditor General's report. So when you look at all these inconsistency, there is bound to be this kind of confusion and so.
Let me get some clarity there. Chairman, how did you pick these list of agencies or parastatals? Is there an ambiguity as to which agency or parastatal or government are meant to submit their report to Auditor General?
Mr. President, I want to say with every sense of responsibility and vehemence that we got this report too from the Office of the Auditor General for the Federation. He has had meetings with us because we observed that audited accounts and, of course, his comments thereon have not been submitted to us for a long time. And we asked what the problem is. All these months we have been trying to update, the list of companies or agencies of government that have submitted the audited accounts to the Office of the Auditor General. Of course, we have found out that over time, till date, they all refused. Take for instance, you just mentioned EFCC. EFCC is of the opinion that once they come to do budget defense, and then of course they talk about budget performance for the preceding year, that one is tantamount to audited accounts. So they don't want to submit accounts to the Auditor General. When the EFCC Act itself says that they have to submit their own audited accounts 6 months into the new financial year. So that's what we are saying. All the enabling acts, whether it is university teaching hospital, whether it is EFCC, whether it is custom, if you go and see the law establishing them, it's very clear that they have to audit the account 6 months, and this account too must be sent to the Office of the Auditor General. So we didn't cook up these names. This was the report that was sent to us by the Office of the Auditor General, and ever since we have been updating them. I want to say that today, as we present this report, what we have presented to you, Mr. President, is sacrosanct. What we have presented to you is correct, and it's the true reflection of the situation right now.
I'm sorry, I just want to be properly guided. Which part, because I'm looking at section 85 of the Constitution, which part of the Constitution there specifically says that these agencies must submit the report to the Auditor General? It says that they are to be audited, but does it actually say that they must submit the report to the Auditor General? Yeah, if you can just guide me.
Mr. President, if you see section 85, I think for clarity, let us even read it from section 85.1. 85.1 says there shall be an Auditor General for the Federation who shall be appointed in accordance with provision of section 86 of the Constitution. 2. The public accounts of the Federation and all offices and courts of the Federation shall be audited and reported on by the Auditor General, who shall submit his report to the National Assembly. Who shall submit his reports to the National Assembly? That is the audited accounts of all offices, all agencies.
Yes, but the audited, if I'm an agency of parastatal, can't I argue that it is the responsibility of the Auditor General to come and audit my account? No, I'm just, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Now, and for that purpose, the Auditor General or any person authorized by him in that behalf shall have access to all the books, records, returns, and other documents relating to those accounts. Notwithstanding the subsection 2 of this section shall not be construed as authorizing the Auditor General. The President, please will take notice of this. Not authorizing the Auditor General to audit the account or appoint auditors for government statutory corporations, commissions, authorities, agencies, including all persons and bodies established by an act of the National Assembly. But the Auditor General shall A. Provide such bodies with a list of auditors qualified to be appointed by them as external auditors, and from which the body shall appoint their external auditors. And 2. Guidelines on the level of fees to be paid to external auditors and comment on their annual accounts and auditors. What that one means, Mr. President, is very clear. That these agencies on their own, if they have to do what is statutorily required, is for them to go to the office of the Auditor General. The Auditor General gives to them a list of external auditors. That's why we recommend that the boards, some of them will say, oh, we don't have boards. These agencies now will choose the external auditors who will audit their own accounts, and this report is not submitted to the Auditor General. So the agencies are the ones that are really not carrying out the audit of their own accounts. So it is their responsibility, and they should submit such report to the Office of the Auditor General. So it's not for the Auditor General to go and audit the accounts of agencies. The Constitution does not allow that. What the Constitution says is that these agencies must appoint their own external auditors from a list that the Auditor General gives. So if they do not come for a request for a list of external auditors or auditors, qualified auditors to be appointed as external auditors, of course there is something the Auditor General can do. And I think that is majorly the reason. Mr. President, let me say that most of these agencies today, if they have it in mind to subscribe to the provisions of their own Establishment Act, why will they not take it on themselves to appoint auditors who will external auditors who will audit their own accounts and do submission to the Office of the Auditor General?
Leader.
Well, I think it's important to clarify this matter from the legal position, sir. And let us see where the duty is either constitutionally or statutorily imposed. The assumption, sir, for the purpose of accountability and to put the Parliament in a position to hold the government to account, there must be a procedure that is transparent enough so that nobody says, I am being witch hunted or not. And what it did is to say, under section 85(1) and 2, that look, you are a parastatal of government, you are taking money from the revenues of the Federation. At the end of the year, go to the Accountant General. From the list of registered auditors, choose whoever you want. Let him audit your account. And at the end of it, send that to us so that we will do our own auditing as the Accountant General of the Federation. And where we find our findings in accordance with the provisions of Section 82, we forward it to the National Assembly for appropriate action. This is the intendment, sir. So the duty to audit the account and submit it to the Accountant General, Auditor General, is that of the parastatals. It's a mandatory duty. But you see, in order not to give them any leverage, the Parliament, in its wisdom, decided that for every provision that establishes an agency, let there be embedded in the provision establishing the agency a requirement of law, reminding them of what they are supposed to do under section 85(1) and 2, that you must audit your account and then submit to the Auditor General of the Federation for onward transmission to the National Assembly. It's just to establish accountability, sir. And let me tell you, sir, what is happening now is a direct confirmation of the fact that we have a dysfunctional system, wherein people are only prepared to obey the laws of this country where it favors them. Where it does not, they throw it away. And this is not acceptable in this era of accountability. Yes, and therefore, what we are supposed to do, sir, is to discharge the primary purpose of Parliament, i.e. holding the executive to account. And to do that is to ensure that every parastatal comply with the provision of the law establishing it, stricto sensu, no minus, no plus. And in the absence of that, sir, we have the responsibility to say we cannot take the revenue of the people who elected us and give you if you are not prepared to account to the people. That's what. That's simple. It's simple arithmetic, sir. And I think that the argument as to where the responsibility lies or not is not shrouded in secrecy. The provisions of the law are clear. The provision of the Constitution under Section 85(1) and 2 is very clear. And the primary purpose and the necessary intendment of the two provisions and the two statutory provisions is clear, sir.
So going back to recommendation 1, is the time, is there going to be an amendment to that? Because we're saying on or before March 2018. Is that Chairman, do you want to?
Mr. President, I want to say that when we prepared this report, it was about 2 months ago. Therefore, we have to do a 2-month extension too. So that's it.
May. Okay. Oh, so you wanted to, I want to put the prayer for the first recommendation. Is your contribution on that?
I was just saying that we are still in March, so the March has not ended anyway. So if they want to insist on March, we are still in good state because it said on or before the end of March. So, but if he says we can extend it, I think it's just fair and correct for us to give them more time to do that. The only thing I want to do is to contribute further to the provision of Section 85 of the Constitution, because the way it is drafted doesn't seem to be very elegant, but the intendment is clear. You know, so you need for some time to have a legal mind to really understand all the import. But what is simply saying that every government agency, every government body must be audited. Everywhere, all of them must be audited. But because the office of the may not have all the personnel to be able to carry out the view of the number of government agencies we have, now says in that case, don't audit yourself. Don't do the audit yourself, your office. Let us have a list of those people who can do the audit. And then don't appoint for anybody. Let each of these agencies come and choose from that list. Yes. When they do that, that government, that editor will now bring the report to you. And then in turn, you take that report to the National Assembly. As simple as that. And if you went further in Section 4, Subsection 4, to say that, in spite of what has been said there, the office of the judge can still go and inspect their books. They can intervene, they can inspect. So whichever way you look at it, everybody, including National Assembly, must submit their report through their appointed editor to the office of the Director General of the Federation, which in turn will be sent to the National Assembly.
Yeah, recommendation 1, yeah.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this report we are asking for that should be audited and submitted to the National Assembly, the processes goes beyond that. After auditing this report, Auditor General's office will now appoint another independent auditors who will review this report before transmitting it to the National Assembly, and they will put comment on all of this report, because most of these reports are fictitious reports. At a glance, you can look at it and know that this is not an audited account. So the process is more than that. But I will suggest, sir, if we truly want to achieve ensuring that we get this report within the next 2 months or thereabout, there should be some punitive measures that we must add to this recommendation that will allow these people to remain on their toes and ensure that they submit this report on or before the end of the expiration of the date, which include 1, now the budget process is on. All these agencies, especially those that since inception have not submitted any report, there is nothing bad if the National Assembly, because the Office of Auditor General is responsible to the National Assembly and not to the Executive, in accordance with the Constitution. And that is why you cannot remove Auditor General's office, Auditor General of the Federation from office without complying with the relevant constitutional provision of the National Assembly, which require 2/3 of the Senate to support the removal. So, Mr. President, I am of the view that agencies like EFCC and others who have refused to submit, their capital expenditure will be withheld until they now release or submit all their audited accounts to the National Assembly through the Office of Auditor General. That's my own identity.
Simple, let's take the recommendations one by one. 1, the defaulting parastatal and arrears of submission of budget accounts should be compelled to clear their arrears on or before May 2018. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So recommendation 2, that the Senate should withhold budgetary approvals for any parastatal which fails to comply by the May 20. Now, this is where the amendment is coming in. I think what Senator Yai is saying, because there are 3 categories or 4 categories. There are those that have not submitted 1 to 2 years. There are those that have not submitted 3 to 5 years. There are those that have not submitted 6 to 10 years, over 11 years, and then there are those that have not submitted since inception. Maybe what we can do, so it's not cumbersome, is take the ones that have either those since inception and there's those over 6 to 10 years. I'm talking about the reality of implementation. Okay, leader. Yeah.
You see, sir, in the wisdom of framers of our laws, if they say you are a thief, it doesn't matter whether you have stolen 5 naira or 1 million. The ingredients are the most important thing. I have always said it, that a drunkard is only interested in the contents of the bottle. We have never seen one who took 12 bottles and then took the empty bottles along with him to the house. What is important here, sir, is that whether it's 1 month, whether it's 5 years, there has been a violence to the provision of our laws. And the only thing we can do, if we must do, is for the punishment to vary in accordance with the gravity of the offense. But I think that what we should do, there should be one uniform punishment for all of them. So, sir, in this regard, I think we might not be on the side of wisdom if we decide to distinguish between these people. All of them are guilty as charged and therefore must receive the same punishment, sir.
Distinguished colleagues, let us look at the practicality of it. There are 491 parastatals. Let's just wait. Let's just, and then you can I just want to guide, and then we can take a decision. There are 491 parastatals. Only 40 have complied. So if you apply this, it means that 447 parastatals would not get 218 budgetary approval. So I think, and then you've given them all 2 months in order to audit what they've not audited for 11 years. How practical is that in 2 years? Let's be, in as much as let us see how we can address this thing. But I'm just looking at the practicality of it. How is it possible in 2 months to no, it's not about their business. We have to do things that at the end of the day that also will work and have an impact. There's no point us passing something that we know that is not. I think we should take this exercise in phases. In my view, there are some that, for example, those who are 1 to 2 years, if we give them till May, I'm sure most of those ones will comply. Then I think what we can do is that we can, for the ones that are serious, like 11 years, 10 years since inception, I think, well, make your recommendation how far. That I'm just concerned that 447 parastatals to complete will not get. So let's take recommendations of a middle ground that works. Yes, Senator Porker.
Mr. President, my suggestion is this. Like you rightly mentioned, over 400 parastatals have not submitted their audited reports. It is my contention that those groups, after the expiration of May, their budgetary provision should be withheld by National Assembly. The 2018.
No, it's not possible.
No. No, but we are still considering. We are still considering.
Till May?
Till May. But
no.
But for the two between 6 and 10 years, I think we should give them some provision. Some of them may comply within this period. But these punitive measures, as to whether we should withhold their budgetary provision, should not be applicable to that group. Let us give them some breathing space for them to satisfy this provision of the Constitution. I agree to the fact that they are defaulted in this area. But if we take them all as they go, we may not achieve the purpose. So the big hammer, to me, should be used for those that have not done it at all throughout their period of establishment. That is my humble submission.
Okay, maybe what we can do as a middle ground, those are between 1 to 2 years. Those can go ahead and comply. I think those above that should, their budgetary figure, allocation should be upheld. That is those 3 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, 11 years, and since inception. Do we agree to? Okay, so so the recommendation there will say that the Senate should withhold budget approvals for any parastatal which fails to comply by May 28 deadline and has an arrears of greater than 2 years. Yes? Yeah? Yeah? Can I put the question then? Those in favor of that recommendation 2 as amended, that is, the Senate should withhold budgetary approvals for any parastatal which fails to comply by May 2018 deadline and has an arrears of over 2 years. Yes? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Yes, have it. Recommendation 3, that the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation should constantly update and reconcile with parastatals on their status of compliance. Those in favor of recommendation 3 say aye. Those against say nay. Yes, have it. Recommendation 4, the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation should liaise with the BPE and Office of the Secretary of Government to clarify status of privatized and merged or scrap parastatals. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. Yes, have it. 5, the Auditor General Office should be strengthened through the provision of adequate budgetary allocation. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. Yes, have it. Recommendation 6 is no longer, I think, boards have been constituted. Yes, Chairman, you want to drop that recommendation?
Mr. President.
But take it by events, hasn't it?
The boards that have been constituted by federal government so far is still less than 10%. And of course, if we have to wait.
No, it's more than 10%. By far more than 10%. All right, okay. So, recommendation 6, the executive arm of government should promptly reconstitute boards of parastatals when they are dissolved so as to enable them approve the appointment of external auditors. Those in favor of recommendation 6 say aye. Those against say nay. There is and then recommendation 7, that has already been passed, hasn't it? Yes? So that has been overtaken by events because we've passed the new Federal Audit Service Bill. I want to thank the committee for the prayer. Yes, Senator David Moro.
Mr. President, I noticed that in subsection 4 and 5 of section 85, an obligation has been placed on the Auditor General to comment on the account of these bodies and also to, from time to time, conduct periodic checks. I am trying to suggest that we mandate the Auditor General to submit any report that he has carried out over this period on the parastatals to the National Assembly for our perusal.
Any seconder to that, distinguished colleagues, let me thank the committee for this very important report, because we can now see when we keep on saying that we're not making more progress in the fight against corruption, because the fundamental issues, the foundation is still very weak. If you are having out of 497 parastatals, only 47 have sent their auditor account, then there is a serious problem. And then when you now find the agencies that even meant to supervise that is even part of those that have not sent, then there is a problem. Now we have taken a resolution here to say that unless some of these agencies do that, their budget for 2018 will be withheld. So let us remember when we were passing the 2018 budget, when the committees are presenting report of the parastatals, to please ensure in their report they should confirm to us whether they have complied with these auditors' report. And in the meantime, we'll make sure we communicate also to the Secretary of Government to ensure that all these parastatals get their accounts audited and submitted to General. Thank you for this report. It will go a long way in us continue in supporting the executive in this fight against corruption that is key for us to be able to ensure that we can have proper dividend for our people in governance. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleague, the fourth order of the day is the second reading of the National Youth Service Corps Act Amendment Bill 2018. Distinguished senator will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, the 20th day of December 2015. Mr. President, you may wish to direct distinguished senator Emmanuel Buacha to go back to his seat and to move the motion for it to be read the second time.
Senator Buacha.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I remain Senator Emmanuel Buacha. I represent Taraba South. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on the general principles of the National Youth Service Corps Act Amendment Bill 2017. That, Mr. President, the objectives of this bill, as propounded by the early leaders, is to ensure cohesion in the nation called Nigeria. But this particular amendment, Mr. President, especially in section 13 and 16 of the Principal Act, is to achieve the following objectives: to increase the penalty for the offenses contained in the Act to make such fines reflect the present value of the Naira, to ensure that regulations made by the Directorate prescribing uniforms and exercise regimen do not violate certain religious practices, beliefs of corps members. And these are policy statements made by the NYC, not as contained in the Constitution, Mr. President. Brief background to the bill. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the NYC is a laudable scheme established in 1973 by the then military head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, as part of the effort by the federal government to rebuild, reconstruct, and reconcile Nigerians following the unfortunate incident of the Civil War, which ended in 1970. It is important to point out that while the scheme has lived up to expectations as a reliable platform for nurturing young patriotic Nigerians, fostering unity and promoting a better understanding of our religious and cultural differences, it has, however, become necessary to amend this Principal Act to address observed lapses and shortcomings. One of such lapses is for the penalty for offenses contained in the Act, which is now outdated and in need of urgent review. Secondly, while Section 16 of the Principal Act mandates the NYC Directorate to make regulations, and this mandate stems from the policy statement that will be issued by the Directorate. It has no direct bearing with the constitutional provisions as established. So, to make regulations or bylaws relating to discipline, exercise regimen, uniforms, welfare of corps members, etc. So uniforms and drills adopted by the Directorate has become a basis for controversy between the Directorate and corps members and other members of the public. In fact, some corps members sometimes have dropped out of service because of the conflict they witness as a result of this code defined by the Directorate. The major bond of contention is that some of the uniforms and drills contravene religious beliefs and practices of corps members and invariably their right to freedom of religion, thought and conscience under the Nigerian Constitution. This bill essentially addresses the above-mentioned lapses in the Principal Act. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, from the foregoing, therefore, the proposed amendment reinforces the right to freedom of religion under Section 38 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended. And Article 8 of the African Charter on Human Rights and People's Rights, and Enforcement Act by making it mandatory for the NYSC Directorate to adopt alternative uniforms and exercise regimen or drills that are tolerable to the religious conscience of corps members. This, in essence, will put to rest the current agitations and tension among corps members or other members of the public on these sensitive issues. Distinguished colleagues, the intendment of the bill is quite simple, and I would therefore appeal that you give your overwhelming support for the second reading of the bill. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this bill has no financial implication and no compendium is attached as required by Order 77.3 of the Senate Standing Rule. Standing Orders 2015 as amended. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Let me ask, Mr. President, the issue Scambasia is simple. It's just about dress code, which is within the confines of the power given to the Directorate to address. And this will settle some of the agitations arising from corps members who of recent have dropped out of service because of the conflict witnessed in some of these dress codes. So thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity.
Well, distinguished colleagues, this is a legislative house, so we are bound by the decision of the majority. But for purposes of making sure that we are doing the correct thing, and then not just making the correct thing, but to be seen to be doing the correct thing, I will invite Senator Boacha to help us read section 315, section 5. You know, because you see, most of us have been canvassing this idea of taking NYSC out of the Constitution, so that some of the issues it raised can be amended. So, but we've always had a brick wall. So, because the NYSC Act is locked right inside the Constitution, so we need to be sure that what he's asking the Senate to do is what the Constitution allows us to do, or whether the procedure is in line with the provisions of the Constitution. So I invite you to read section 3155. 315 subsection 5.
Subsection 5 says, nothing in the Constitution shall invalidate the following enactment, that is to say, the National Youth Service Corps Decree 1993, the Public Complaint Commission, well, National Youth Service Corps Decree 1993. Mr. President, the issues being okay. Now, the Public Complaint Commissions Act, the National Security Agencies Act, the Land Use Act, and the provisions of those enactments shall continue to apply and have full effect in accordance with their tenor and to the like extent as any other provisions forming part of this Constitution, and shall not be altered or repealed in accordance with the provisions of Section 9(2) of this Constitution. These are direct reference to the provisions of the Act. And in the provisions of the Act, Mr. President, it enables the Directorate to issue out policy statement. The issue being canvassed here is a direct policy statement that should be reflected in the law so as to give corps members freedom to dress code. It has no direct bearing on altering the decree or the NYSC Act. This is freedom given to the Directorate to issue out policy that will be reflected in the Act. It is not direct alteration of the Act, Mr. President. We are very conscious of these provisions and we are being careful.
You know, Senator Boacha, as I said, as a president of it, I don't have an opinion on this matter. I'm just trying to provide direction. Section 9(2) of the Constitution is saying that for you to amend the Constitution, you have to pass through the National Assembly, head to 10 votes, then you go to the states and get 1/3 of 2/3 of the states. And it's saying that before you amend any of these laws here now, you have to follow the same process as if you're amending the Constitution. So that's what it simply is saying. So, and what we are trying to do here, Bill, is to amend the NYSC Act. So what the law is, the Constitution is saying that for you to do that, you have to follow a particular procedure, which is already stipulated in Section 9(2). So I understand the point you are making, but the problem here is that unless we take the NYSC Act out of the Constitution, we are still going to have this challenge. So, but as I said, this is a law-making institution. Whatever we decide, I'll go ahead with it. But my job is to provide direction here. Jubril.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Barrow Jibrin. I represent Kano North. But first of all, let me begin by commending Senator Buacha, even though some challenge to his effort to amend this very important part of the Energy Act has been a little bit, has been challenged anyway. Has been challenged by the DSP.
Sorry, I'm not challenging at all. I just am providing direction. Whatever we decide, we'll go ahead with it. No, I'm not challenging. I have no problem with him. The issue is to let us understand what we are doing. And then if there's a way to circumvent it, fine, but we must know, the discerning public must know that we knew that there's such provision, and then we'll either make an exception to it, or find a way of going around it, but we must be seen to be considering that aspect of the law in making our decision.
Thank you, Mr. President, for guiding me properly. So I want to commend you. I want to commend Senator Buacha for initiating this amendment to this very important act. This country, the people of this country are people of faith. We are either Muslim, Christians, or adherents of traditional religion. And we have our values, we have our mode of dressing, and so on and so forth. And it appears the mode of dressing prescribed by NYSC contravenes this very important aspect of our religion. And we take religion dearly in this country. So, the amendment is simple. What is the intent of this deal is very, very simple. Trying to look at the mode of dressing and to make it go in line with our values, our culture, our religious culture, and so on and so forth. So it's something that is welcome, and I commend him for doing that. And the other aspect of it is the guidance given by Mr. President. I think we need to look at that. It's cogent. We need to look at it that if it is not enough, if we can't amend this act through this bill, I suggest that in the next effort by the National Assembly to amend the Constitution, we should bring this into consideration so that we can be able to do that. And he's a guru. He's a guru in terms of legislative process and legislation entirely. So you cannot discontinence whatever Senate President and the presiding officer in this session, said.
To all times, if there are little things to be done to make it better, I believe a mere pronouncement by the NYSC should be capable of addressing that, rather than an act of the National Assembly. I so submit, Mr. President.
Senator Kiari.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Abuku Kiari, Senator representing Borno. I would like to share the same sentiments as Senator Barrow Jibrin and also go a little bit against Her Excellency on the issue of mode of dressing. Yes, we know NYSC has been around for over 40 years, but awareness also changes. People are more aware in terms of cultural and religious beliefs nowadays than before. And I believe the mode of dressing is also very important, especially in light of what we now look at the girl-child education, especially in northern Nigeria. We want to encourage our young girls to go to school and to be educated and be graduates. But at the same time, they should also be free. They should have their own religious freedom to wear the way the dictates of the religion, Islam, is on mode of dressing. So we believe, for instance, in the NYSC uniform mode of dressing, it's a trouser and a tucked-in top, which contravenes the mode of dressing according to the Islamic religion. I think they should be able to be given the opportunity to wear long skirts, even if it's over the trousers, so that they can be free and also in according to their own religion. So I believe the issue of the constitutional amendment vis-a-vis the laws guiding the NYSC should also be looked at. But I believe also NYSC should be able to bring out a policy that can allow such freedom of uniform as long as it's in line with the color and of the NYSC colors uniform. Thank you, sir.
Chief Whip.
Thank you. Because I don't think there's any need for this bill at all. Like the last speaker spoke. These people use you for operates. Some of them would like to join the army. Whether you go in as a nurse or as an officer, you must have trousers. If it's a nurse, there's dress for nurses. That's different when I want. But when you are going to the field for exercise,